we're all living through anxious times. And let me be clear that anything I talk about when I refer to anxiety today, I'm not talking about clinical anxiety, which is real and if necessary needs to be treated. I'm talking about when we talk about anxiety, we're talking about like that stress, that fear, that games our mind is playing with us, and how risky it is and how dangerous it is and how we have to be worried about it because what it's doing to us. So let's just get a map where we are. Where are we as we speak? We've all been vaccinated. Some of you will get the second vaccine very soon and will be pretty much fully vaccinated by Rosh Hashanah. And yet, unlike what we thought a few months ago that the vaccine is the solution, what we're realizing more and more, and I'm not a medical professional, but the facts are talking for themselves, that's a partial solution, a very big part, but it's not the answer as we see what's going on in Israel and elsewhere. So what did that do to us? That was a switch that happened to us very recently, that we went from the vaccine, if only we had it during the third wave, it would have saved everything, which it definitely would have made things better, to, yeah, now we're vaccinated, but we're still not coming to shul. And I sent out the survey to ask people if they're coming back. And as of now, the survey shows, I'm putting it in the newsletter as well, but based on 145 responses, 98.5% will be vaccinated or partially vaccinated by Rosh Hashanah. But how many people are coming back? Only 70%. 15% are unsure and 14% are no. And remember, I'll actually share it with you just to see it. It's actually, it's for me, it's quite fascinating to watch because it says a lot about where we're at. So if you look over here, vaccination results, I will be fully vaccinated in time for high holidays, 87%. Partially vaccinated, 10.6%. I have not been vaccinated, 2%, 1.4%, and prefer not to say nobody took. But when it comes to do you intend to participate in services, we go from pretty much 98% to 70%. And then 15% unsure, which even if you take the unsures and add it, it's 85%. But remember, 87.9% are fully vaccinated. So, and 14% are saying definitely no. So you have to wonder, what is behind this? What's going on? I mean, we've been vaccinated. We've reached utopia. But no, look what's going on in Israel. And I'm still cautious, and I'm this, and I'm that. Which means that practically, we don't have an answer right now. The only thing that many of us are hoping for is that COVID will now turn into a flu, and eventually one day we're going to realize, okay, we have to live with it. But that's a very vague definition. Right now, we were living in we had a clear goal: vaccinate and come back, vaccinate and live. And now we're saying vaccinate and still I'm not coming back to shul. Vaccinate and I'm still cautious. Vaccinate and I'm still uncomfortable. What's up? Now, again, this is not a religious question. It's a question of what happened here? What the discrepancy? And a big issue is anxiety, this feeling that we don't have control, that we went from a simple get vaccinated, it solves everything, to vaccinated and still I'm very cautious, still we have to social distance, still we're not going to eat together, still we're going to keep our masks on, still I'm going to be afraid to walk into shul. And no, I am not talking about this from a medical perspective on what people should do. I'm talking specifically from an emotional perspective. That from an emotional perspective, we're going into dangerous territory. We're coming out of dangerous territory, but we're going into dangerous territory. Why? Because until now, we thought we had an answer, and we thought that something is in our control, maybe not our control, the government's control, to get vaccinations. And now we're pretty much saying, no, nothing's in control. There's nothing that could get me back until some vague thing happens. But that means that we're going to be living with uncertainty. Now, we've been living with uncertainty, but this is a very different kind of uncertainty. And we have to learn how to live with uncertainty, not die with uncertainty, live with uncertainty. You know, I imagine, I wasn't alive then, when cars were invented, it took people a long time to adjust from horse and buggy to cars. Cars was a new thing, it seemed dangerous. And change is always something that people don't like, right? When email came out, we all didn't run to get email. When Facebook came out, some of us still didn't get Facebook accounts. Cell phones, smartphones, etc. We all eventually come there. Not everybody, but pretty much most people. You eventually say, you know what, I don't really know this, but I have to try. I have to get into it. I have to step into the discomfort. I have to be comfortable with the uncomfortable. That's really at the heart of what I want to say today. We're reaching a stage now that we're vaccinated that we have to learn how to be comfortable with the uncomfortable, which means there's no certainties, but there's pretty good odds that your life is okay now from a COVID perspective if you go out and you're still cautious. But what you could also be sure is if you continue this lockdown, as if we haven't gotten mad enough the last 18 months, we're going to go madder. In other words, for me, once you're vaccinated, the decision is very different. Yes, there's uncertainty, but the equilibrium, the balance is different. Now, your sanity has to take precedence. What's good for your emotional health? What's good for your faith? What's good for your future? What's good for your sanity? Because now it's a calculated risk. Now it's a responsible risk. And as long as you're doing it responsibly, I think it's wrong for us not to return to life. I think it's wrong. We have to grab every opportunity we have to return to life. I don't know if there'll be a fourth wave. I don't know. I just heard there's a Colombian variant and the Peruvian variant. And I don't know what the future holds, but I know now, this moment, we're given a space to breathe. And the question is, will we? And I beg everybody to go out of their comfort zone and make a decision. It doesn't have to be shul. Shul's not your thing, shul's not your thing. But stretch yourself. Do not live the next 2 months the way you've lived the last 18 months. It's wrong. You can't. You cannot handle it. That anxiety it's too much. At what risk? At some stage, and I'm going to say something that I'm going to regret, but I'm saying it anyway. We're so afraid to die, but aren't we as afraid to live a lifeless life? In other words, yes, when the decision was a very high chance of death to a terrible life, you chose terrible life. But now when it's a very low chance, you're still going to choose that life? Are we still going to choose a life that's not comfortable, that's not natural, that's not nourishing our soul? Can we afford to? How much longer? And no, I'm fully for the rules and fully for following the law, but I'm also fully for living. And I know what it's doing to me, and I'm a young person. I know I need to live. This is so unnatural for us. And we did it because of conviction and of faith. But at this stage, enough, friends. Within the realm of normalcy and responsibility, we have to live. And for me, that's what I would tell this person who asked how to deal with anxiety this time. Embrace the discomfort. You know, is there anything foolproof? Can I promise you you'll go into the car, you'll be okay? Can I promise you your kids will go to school and they won't be bullied? Can I promise you anything? No. But science has shown that there's a very, very strong basis to say that if you're recently vaccinated, not 8 months ago, but if you're recently vaccinated, you're okay. But what's not okay is your sanity if you continue living like this. And we, 18 months ago, we were given a huge weight on our shoulders. We were told, you carry the life of your parents and your children and your spouse. And we were given this huge weight that many of us, really struggled to accept. But eventually we accepted and we said, okay, whew, it's a big task. If I go out and I go shopping and I don't spray my cucumbers when they come home, and I'm going to talk to my dad after that, I'm going to get okay, whatever, right, wrong, I don't know. But it definitely was a lot. And we can't live like this anymore. We've always lived with discomfort. We've always lived with uncertainty. We go to work uncertain what will happen with work. We go and we bring children into the world and we're uncertain what will happen. We get married and we don't know what's going to happen. Think about it. Our whole life is taking gambles. It's calculated gambles, but you don't know if your spouse will treat you well. You don't know if they'll live till tomorrow. You don't know anything. But you go based on the basic assumptions, and basically you have to live life. And most time, 99% of the time, it works out relatively. Yes, there are the shock moments, there are the crazy things, there are the abnormal things, which is still happening. Vaccinated people are having very unusual cases, but within the realm of decent expectations. You got married expecting that that if everything's okay, you'll still be married to the person a few decades later, and you'll have children, and life will play out. We embraced risk, and now we're running away from it. But who are we hurting in the process? Us. Us. And at this stage, the equation is not fear anymore to us. It's not fear what we're doing to ourselves. That fear that says, no, I'm going to just spend another few months. We're given a get-free card. It's not a full free card. It's not anything, but it's something. It says, okay, you're recently vaccinated. Your antibodies are there. Go live. Go have a coffee with a friend. Go keep your distance. Do whatever you need to do. But push it a bit. Push. Live. And I'll be honest, every part of me is pulling me the other way as well. It's coming and saying, no, be responsible. But as a rabbi, I'm seeing the other side as well. I'm seeing it within myself, and I'm seeing it within my so many people in the community. Every decision we take in life has a cost. And the decisions we made in life, which I believe for the last 18 months were mostly correct, they had a cost, but the cost benefit, it worked out. But now it doesn't. Now it is not justified to lock ourselves in a cage and continue this hibernation and continue this anxiety, this fear, this paranoia, this waiting for the other shoe to drop. Just lead. Let go. Again, nothing I'm saying is unscientific. I'm not saying anything the doctors are not saying. And I'm looking at the world and I'm saying, yes, Israel's back in lockdown, but they had a few months to live. America's back in lockdown, but they had a few months to live. Grab it. Don't we want life? Don't we grab every opportunity to live rather than sit there saying, "Ooh, I'm so used to not living that, I know there's still there's rumors and stuff, and that I'll just keep life at bay." No, we can't afford that. We need it. And is it uncomfortable? Yes. But every day when I look at my children, I ask myself a simple question. I say, I brought these kids into the world. Did I know that COVID would happen? No. Did I know that my 18-month-old beautiful baby girl would pretty much never see a person from nose down? No. But was it worth it? Yes. Yes. Life is still worth it. In other words, life is bigger than COVID. Life is better than COVID. And it's my responsibility to show her and give her as much exposure to life as possible. If what we're going through now seeps us out of our confidence and it drains us from it drains our zest for life. If it drains our zest for life, friends, then we are shortchanging ourselves. We always lived with uncertainty. I mean, you live in South Africa, for crying out loud. You lived in uncertainty, but you still got into your car, even when there were carjackings, and you still lived at home, even when there's break-ins. Why? Because you live. You just got to live. When are we going to make that decision? When? What's the... If we just push the bar off and we said we don't know, so what next? 2022? What happens then? I don't know. I don't know. But like, will it be perfect? I don't think so. But we've learned to live with so many uncertainties in our life. And this is one more uncertainty we need to learn to live with. Am I saying let's go live Israeli style and just take all our masks off? I wish, but no, it's not where we're at. It's not our society, and no. But am I saying go to the shops and sit 2 meters away from your friend and have a coffee? If you're vaccinated, yes. Yes. Because it will rejuvenate your soul. It will give you back to come to shul and, you know, hear an asana teikef, hear the shofar. It will just make you feel normal again. And we need that feeling of normalcy. We need to feel that this world hasn't totally gone bananas, like a touch of reality. You know, I'm an immigrant. I've immigrated to this country. And ultimately, you know, you're always somewhat of an outsider in the place that you immigrate to. And I've done my best to try to be South African, but I'm still an outsider. And home as in the place where is the most familiar is my mother's house. I spent 25 years of my life there, and I was brought up there. And every once in a while, usually it happens about once a year, I feel this deep craving. I have to go back home and anchor myself. I need to just, like, you know, I'm a rabbi, I'm a dad, I'm a husband, I'm a this, I'm a that, but ultimately I'm still a little baby, I'm still a little human being, I'm still a fragile person, and I need to go back to who I am, to my humanity. And even just going in for a few days, it anchors me. It's like, okay, this is where you come from, this is your story, this is who you've become, this is who this is, etc. It's grounded. I think for the last year and a half, we're not grounded. We're hovering. We're not grounded. We're not living the life of normal living, of what we grew up with, of sane living. And at some stage, if you don't tether yourself to the ground, you actually live hovering for the rest of your life. In other words, if you don't once in a while reconnect to the earth, then you're just living in the clouds. That's why we go on holiday, to reconnect to earth. We walk on the earth barefoot, to just reconnect to reality. And for the last 18 months, we're living in a surreality. It's surreal. It's mad. But if we continue this in our head, it will become our new reality. And that's very, very dangerous. It's dangerous. It is. You know, my grandparents were all Holocaust survivors, and they moved on in life, but there's no question that the traumas stay. And the longer you live through a trauma, the more it becomes part of you. My grandfather, you know, was living in Michigan, Detroit, my father's father, and was locking the door with 7 locks each night because the KGB was following him. And you get it when you spent the first many decades of your life not convinced, knowing that the Russians are safe. It forms you. Now that's a small thing. It didn't big deal. So he locked his door. It's not the end of the world. But that's just a small example of when you live a certain life for so long, it becomes your only reality you could see. And if we're going to continue, if we're going to live the rest of our life in a COVID mindset, I think that's a tragedy. Because this isn't life. It's something we have to get through. It's something we could learn from, but this isn't how life ought to be. You know, there's a famous story about this fellow who, I've shared this at the beginning of COVID. This guy who was lowered into a pit where people had been living for generations. Dark pit, you know, like jail in the ancient times. And he's rubbing his eyes because it's pitch black. And someone turns to him and says, don't worry, don't worry. You're going to adjust to it soon. And this newcomer turns to him and says, that's exactly what I'm worried about. I'm going to adjust to the darkness, and I'll think that darkness is light. In other words, when someone says you're adjusting to COVID, I'm worried about that. In other words, no, this isn't normal. I have to deal with it, but this isn't normal. This is not life. This is an anomaly. This is a blip. This is a lesson. This is a message. But this isn't the way I want to live my life. Never to shake a hand again. Never to greet somebody again. Never to see a person face to face again. Only talking through Zoom. I acknowledge that, yes, Zoom has been a blessing in certain ways, and it's expanded the reach, and have been able to teach more than I've ever taught before, but this is not okay. It's not. You know, it's like Jews, we've been in exile for so long that we think that exile is reality. We think that Mashiach is a, wacko promise, and this is the real world. No, we always have to remind ourselves, this isn't normal. When I lost my dad, and I said, like, for a while, and I then dealt with so much death in the community, I started seeing the world through a prism of death. And every once in a while I still do, because, it's so much death around me. But I have to remind myself that there's a lot more life than death. This isn't reality. But it forms you, because when you go into a certain universe and you're sitting in Shiva houses all day and you're burying people and you're talking to people about the dead loved ones, and over and over and over, you're living in a reality of death. Your world is tainted through death. And at some stage you have to step back and say, I cannot live like this. I could enter it, honor it, and then leave it. And remember, that's a part of life. It's not life. COVID is a part of life. It cannot be our life anymore. We need to learn to live. We need to learn to breathe. We need to learn to live with discomfort, and ultimately to know Hashem has a plan. I have to do my part, but my part does not mean I have to lock myself in a cage any longer. I don't think that's the part. Feel free to disagree. I mean, I don't claim to be a prophet from heaven, but I'm just looking at the basic facts. Hashem wants us to be responsible. He doesn't want us to be anxious. Hashem wants us to take ownership on our life. He doesn't want us to forget that He ultimately is the boss. And that we have to live our life, and to live with emunah, to live with faith, that I will do my part, I will do my hishtadlut, I will do my effort, but Hashem will decide. Hashem will decide. And how much more of the richness of life will we allow this pandemic to take away from us? How much more? Now, if there was a deadline, if there was something that said, okay, in 3 months' time, we're going to finally have the answers, I would say, you know what, you want to live 3 months? I get it. But nobody knows. Nobody knows. All we know is that the vaccine is pretty efficient, especially at the beginning. So run, breathe, live. Do whatever you can. Grab life. That's something I learned from my grandparents who came out of such hell, and they realized the moment you're given a chance to live, you live. Like a child, the moment you take a child out of a cage and you give them an ounce of freedom, they're bouncing around. Because naturally we feel caged. But at some stage, When you get so comfortable in your cage, you forget it's a cage. That's a curse. And yes, there's parts of COVID that were comfortable, especially if you're an introverted person. There are parts that are comfortable. It wasn't all black. But our life needs something else as well. So here's my request as we're about to go into the new year of Rosh Hashanah. And, at least in Joburg, the third wave is behind us, mostly. And we're vaccinated. And we don't know what will bring November, December, but we know that at least September, October, we can hope that things will be calm based on the past and the way things were, the predictions of the professionals. Will we live as much as we can? Not with breaking the law, not breaking policy, but living as much as we can within it. Because the anxiety is too much a price to pay. On the other hand, to live with just fear. I can't go to the, get a haircut, and I can't do this, and I can't do this, and I can't do this, and I can't. Gosh, we're so anxious. You think about how much weight we've put on, not physical weight, anxiety weight, how much heavier our hearts are now. Worried about our spouse, and worried about our parent, or our child, or our this, or our grandchild. It's just like there's so much worry. But the truth is, friends, we never knew. We never knew what's going to be. I never worried my dad was going to die, and he died. And the stuff I do worry about 99% of the time doesn't happen. I can't. I can't carry the world anymore. I mean, I, as in all of us. We could pray, we could do the best we can, we could be responsible. But no, we cannot convince ourselves that we can, run away from life and still live. If you're out of life, you're not living to your fullest. And there's a cost to that. And at this stage, I think the cost is way too much. I'm waiting to be bombarded. I'm waiting to be told, Rabbi, you didn't see what I saw. And, I don't claim that God talks through me. I don't know. But I'm just looking at reality the way I see it. I'm looking at my family in America, I'm looking at Israel, I'm looking at South Africa, and I'm just looking at my community, my friends. And for me, this seems to be the only conclusion, because every other alternative, the alternative of just giving up and waiting for this to end, we don't know. We don't know when it's going to end, and we don't know what comes after this. But if we lived like this, we would never have brought children into the world in the first place. We would never get married. We would never build a career. We would never live. Life is scary. It is. Life is scary. When you're a kid, you think that life is ultimately, did you make the team or did you not make the team? But as you're growing older and you take on responsibilities and you're growing your awareness, life is scary. It is. I see what's going on in Afghanistan, and I see what's going on in Israel, and I see what's going on here, and I see what's going on to that. It's scary, but I'm going to stop living because it's scary. Acknowledge, yeah, it's terrifying. I don't know. But anxiety is the indecisiveness. This is my final point I want to bring up. Anxiety is indecisiveness. It's the inability to make decisions in discomfort. And then we just freeze. That's the anxious feeling. Like, I don't know, what should I do? Make the decision. I want to dedicate the shir for Refuah Shlema for Chaya Leah Bat Yafa. We should have a Refuah Shlema, complete recovery, and a complete recovery for each and every one of us in all areas of our life. Emotional recovery, mental recovery, physical recovery. That we should allow these moments to build us, but not to break us. And we should never allow our hope to disappear. Shkayach, everybody. Thank you so much.